Hey guys, Be Twice here. Today is Sunday, July 25th. I had some requests, so we're going to start taking a look at a few of those and then one stock that I wanted to look at. We're going to start off by looking at one of the requested stocks, Zoom Video Communication. So obviously, I'm pretty sure everybody knows what Zoom is. Zoom obviously exploded during the pandemic. Um, Ramped all the way up to close to $600 a share and then ultimately started to really pull back. So the question is, where is it going? Is it a buy right now? Stuff like that. So let's look at the entire sequence since its IPO. So what I'm seeing is that we had a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and a 5. So this is a higher degree wave 1 and we are in the process of pulling back for our wave two. Well, let's talk about wave twos a bit. Generally, wave two, the most common place for it to bottom is the 61.8% retracement, which, as you can see, we got really close to doing so. Also, let's try to get like a little bit more confirmation that this is actually our wave two bottom and that we're not going to get rejected up here and ultimately head lower. Um, if you actually look at the corrective sequence, we have a very textbook zigzag. We had a five-wave move down for a B, a C, gives us a W, and then we had an A, B, C for an X, and then we had another zigzag A, B, C, taking us down for our Y. So if we wanted to see what our Y price target would be, what we would do is we would extend W. So you take the entire W extension and extend it from where X was, and then it has to hit at least 61.8% extension. So we passed that. So even though it was a shallow Y, we had a really deep zigzag, so that would make sense. So I am saying yes, this is our two bottom, um, and then ultimately now we're going to see where we're going. So I'm going to zoom in on the hourly just so we can get a better look at the impulse to the upside. Okay. So, one thing I do is, and the reason I count the hourly instead of the daily, if you go back and you look at the daily that I just showed you, this two count right here looks like it's just floating in the middle of nowhere. There's no candle that any trade ever occurred here. This more than likely happened during pre-market hours or maybe after hours at some point in time, and then it got bought up during the actual day. Every tick matters when you're doing wave theory because you have to count that. If you're not looking at pre-market and after hours, there's a lot of info you're missing, and you're going to completely screw up your count. So that's just a little pointer. Is you want to make sure that you're looking at pre-market and after hours, and that's why it's better to look at your hourly chart versus your daily, because most of the time your daily charts are not going to cover your pre-market and after hours unless you set them up that way. Okay, so now let's get into this. This was the downtrend line that you could see on my initial daily chart. We've broken through that in a big way, so expect that to now act as support as well. So that's a really good thing. So I do expect this uptrend to maintain, and ultimately I see us in a five-wave impulse to the upside. But where's this going? So basically, we've bottomed for our two. We had a five-wave move up for a one. So if you actually wanted to go in and count these, you could. You could be like one, two, three, four, five, and that's basically how I do it. But mind you, at every single spot, you're going to have a whole bunch of impulsive waves, and the whole chart would become a cluster of different counts. So generally what I try to do is I try to just piece through it and just get like more of the primary counts on here for you guys to see, because you really don't need to count it down to a minute scale all the time, especially for if you're trading for months out, then you really don't have to. Okay, so what am I seeing? So we had a five-wave move up for a one, we pulled back for a two. It's very obvious that this becomes a two because of how deep it came. So this chart became very easy to count because you're like, okay, that's a one and a two, and now I need to do an extension off of this one and two to figure out what my price targets were for three, four, and five. And this chart is extremely textbook, which is why I'm using it as a learning tool right now, is because when you take the extension from the top of one and pull it down to two, and then you project the 100%, the 161.8, and the 200% off of this two bottom, what do you see? Well, your wave three price target is usually right around the 161.8% extension. We hit that and just barely went above it, and then ultimately pulled back down. And when we pulled back down, we had an A, a B, and a C move from that level, taking us to the 100%. If you guys watched my videos yesterday, you would learn that the reason I project the 100%, the 161.8, and the 200% is your wave three price target is 161.8. The most common place for your wave four to bottom is the 100%. The 100% is the exact same thing as a 38.2% retracement. And that's why I always extend that one on there, because it saves me from having to do a retracement on top of the extension. I can just leave it on there and know that, hey, that's the 38.2% retracement. And then once we bottom there, my wave five price target ends up being the 200% extension. So that's why I always have this defaulted to the 100%, 161.8, and the 200%, even though technically they can go into a whole bunch of different ones. You could go to Your wave three could go all the way to 260%. It could really go wherever, but these are the most common levels. So when you're trading options or you're trying to get price targets, these are the levels you want to use. So either way, we pulled down for a three swing down for our wave four bottom. It looks like we bottomed, and now what am I seeing? I'm seeing a five wave impulse to the upside, taking us up to $420 a share. Usually when I draw these zigzags, these aren't to scale exactly what I think it's going to do. It's right around where I think they're going to hit. So I do think that we're probably going to go to like 380 and see a pullback. And then from there, we're going to hit 400 and see a pullback. And then ultimately go to 420. A lot of times I do these based upon either psychological resistances or I go back and look at charts to see the actual resistance and supports. But mind you, this could be invalidated because at a minute scale, it's much harder to count the waves. As you can see, these are pretty all over the place. But at a macro scale, meaning the primary waves, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they're much easier to predict, and that's why I'm showing you this. Because look how easy this was to predict. If you would have caught this back here that this was a 2, you could have bought calls betting on it to go up to 400, and it would have hit. Um, so just to show you guys that. All right. Oh, you know what? I didn't show you. Hold on. Let's go back to there for a second. So Zoom, one last time. We did have some, or we're having bullish divergence on the R side, which is a good thing. So I do think Zoom's going to ramp up to back to plus 400 a share before we see another pullback for a two. All right, now to Zoom. All right, guys. So, or snow, I mean, yeah. So it's early. Okay, so what am I seeing with snow? Ultimately, with snow, I'm looking at the daily first, and then we'll jump into the hourly. Is I'm seeing a zigzag down for a wave two. So obviously, we IPO'd, we ramped up pretty high. That's a wave one. We pulled back for a two, and we have our textbook ABC correction down for two. Um, and you can't really do a retracement for this, but you can do an extension. You can't do a retracement because the IPO price is higher than where we currently are. Um, so you kind of have to, you can't really do that. But either way, when you take your extension off of your from A off of B to find your C, our C is right between 76.4 and 100%, closer to 76.4. So that tells me that there's a good chance this is bottom. Sure, it could go lower. I don't think it will. And now let's look at the hourly to see where this thing's going. So we're obviously in a bullish trend, heading up for a wave five. So where's our wave five price target? So basically what I'm seeing is we had a five wave move up for one. We pulled back for a two. And then we rallied up for a three. We pulled back for our four, and it was a deep four. It went to a 50% retracement. And now where are we going? Basically, what I'm seeing is that we're in the process of a five-wave move to the upside to get us to close to $300 a share, and then that's going to be a wave one. So um, be mindful that I do think here very soon snow is going to see a rejection. And I'm going to be watching it because I'm looking to get in on that rejection. Kind of upset that I didn't get in earlier on this rally and notice that it was in a bullish sequence, but you can't play on everything in the market because obviously there's a lot of good setups at any given time. So I'm going to continue watching this one. I'm kind of hoping that we will get rejected up here. Even though 293 is a far ways away, we're already in part of the wave five, it seems. Now, if we get rejected here and head lower, and this isn't wave four bottom, or maybe we come back down and test a double bottom because of bad market conditions. If this happens and this thing comes back down to 245, then I would buy betting for it to go up to this 293. I just think like right around here, you could go a little higher and hit a fifth wave, or maybe you have a truncated fifth wave. You never know. So you want to make sure you're buying in on the dips, and obviously it already looks like we already passed the dip buy spot. So I'll be watching it, looking to get in on a dip, but ultimately I do think this is heading higher to 293, and then it's going to get rejected to come lower, and that's where somewhere around the 60% retracement dip buyers will be waiting. Okay, I want to take a look at Roku because Roku is another one that I was just like, crap, I can't believe I missed that. There was a huge move on Friday. Um, so let's look at everything we've seen so far on Roku, and then we'll look at okay, so what I'm seeing is that we actually have a 3, 4, and this whole move up here was a wave five, which was a higher degree wave one. Um, let's look at the hourly so it's easier to see now. Oh crap, I have to do it on the daily. Okay, so for the corrective sequence, what I'm seeing is that we pulled down for an A, popped up for a B, came down for a C, which is a W. Then we had a three-wave move up. Obviously, when you have a corrective wave or a double correction, you always have it. Usually it's a zigzag. Then you have a W that gives you a W, and then you have a three-wave move up that takes you to your X, and then you have another zigzag. That's one of the most common double corrections you're going to see, and that's exactly what we see here with Roku. It took us to a shallow wave two bottom, the 61.8% extension off of X, but a wave two bottom nonetheless. So now let's look and see where this thing's going. And this is why I'll explain to you why I'm kicking myself here on this one. So um, we had a five-wave move up to the right here to about the 360 range. That was our wave one. We pulled back for our wave two, and now look, the same thing that we saw with Zoom is a textbook extension. You take your extension from one off of two, and look what happened. We rallied up for our wave three. We hit the 161.8% exactly. We hit it on the head. And if I would have seen this sequence unfolding, it just hit it perfectly. So that's our wave three. We pulled back for our wave four, and look at that. We bottomed right around the 100% extension, or the 100% extension, which is the 38.2% retracement. And then ultimately now we're rallying up for our wave five. Our wave five is going to hit right around 490, and then we're going to see rejection, and then we're going to be coming down somewhere in the 390 to 360 range. So my guess is that this piece, we're going to top wave five right around the next market correction because it's going to head extremely lower. um, I don't think it's going to be a shallow wave two, and I'm hoping it won't be because I'll be looking to buy the dip on this one. But why am I kicking myself for this one, especially? Because not only did it pop up and hit the 161.8% extension perfectly, but a lot of people were screaming about Roku, and there was a lot of option buying on Roku, and also it was bull flagging. So we had this massive rally. We bull flagged down for a four, and then we rallied, broke out of the top side of the channel, and just ripped. I mean, Friday was insane. People made big money on this. It went up 13% damn near. So um, crazy day. Hate to miss it, but you can't catch them all. But I'll be watching for the top, looking for some downside to get an entry on Roku long term. So, all right, guys, those are the three stocks I have for this video. I'll be putting up another one here shortly. Thanks, guys.